Hello, welcome to Biology, the scientific study of life. More about parasympathetic division. Bronchia of the lungs dilate and support increased gas exchange. Digestion is inhibited and secretion of epinephrine, adrenaline from the adrenal medulla is stimulated. Activation of the parasympathetic division generally causes opposite responses that promote calming and a return to self-maintenance functions, rest and digest. For example, increased activity in the parasympathetic division decreases heart rate, increases glycogen production, and enhances digestion. When sympathetic and parasympathetic neurons innervate the same organ, they often, but not always, have antagonistic opposite effects. The enteric division consists of networks of neurons in the digestive tract, pancreas, and gallbladder. These neurons control these organ secretions as well as activity in the smooth muscles that produce peristalsis. Although the enteric division can function independently, it is normally regulated by the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. The somatic and autonomic nervous systems often cooperate in maintaining homeostasis in response to a drop in body temperature. For example, the hypothalamus signals the autonomic nervous system to constrict surface blood vessels, which reduces heat loss. At the same time, the hypothalamus signals the somatic nervous system to cause shivering, which increases heat production. Embryonic development of the brain. In all vertebrates, there are three bilaterally symmetrical anterior bulges of the neural tube: the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Become evident as the embryo develops during vertebrate evolution. The brain further divided structurally and functionally. This regionalization increased capacity for complex integration, with the forebrain becoming much larger in bears and mammals than in other vertebrates. By the 5th week of human embryonic development, 5 brain regions have formed from the 3 primary bulges. The telencephalon and diencephalon develop from the forebrain. The mesencephalon develops from the midbrain and is also called the midbrain in the adult. And the metencephalon and the myelencephalon develop from the hindbrain. As a human brain develops further, the most profound changes occur in the telencephalon, the region of the forebrain that gives rise to the cerebrum. Rapid extensive growth of the telencephalon during the 2nd and 3rd months causes the outer portion of the cerebrum, called the cerebral cortex, the extend over and around much of the rest of the brain. Major centers that develop from the diencephalon. The forebrain division that evolved earliest in vertebrate history are the thalamus, hypothalamus, and apothalamus. The 3 regions derived from the midbrain and hindbrain give rise to the brainstem, a set of structures deep within the brain. The adult brainstem consists of the midbrain derived from the mesencephalon, the bones derived from the metencephalon, and the medulla oblongata derived from the myelencephalon. The metencephalon also gives rise to another major brain center, the cerebellum, which is not part of the brainstem. The brainstem. The brainstem is one of the evolutionary older parts of the vertebrate brain, sometimes called the lower brain. It consists of a stalk with a cab-like, notice this, closer look, cab-like swellings at the interior end of the spinal cord, and the three parts of the brainstem, notice. The medulla oblongata, the bones and midbrain function in homeostasis, coordination of movement, and conduction of information to higher brain centers. Several centers in the brainstem contain neuron cell bodies that send axons to many areas of the cerebral cortex and cerebellum, releasing neurotransmitters such as norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. Signals in these pathways cause changes in attention, alertness, appetite, and motivation. The medulla oblongata, commonly called the medulla, contains centers that control several visceral, automatic, homeostatic functions, including breathing, heart and blood vessels activity, swallowing, vomiting, and digestion. The bones also participates in some of these activity. For example, it regulates the breathing centers in the medulla. All axons carrying sensory information to and motor instructions from higher brain regions pass through the brainstem, making information transmission one of the most important functions of the medulla and bones. These two regions also help coordinate large-scale body movements such as walking. Most of the axons carrying instructions about movement from the midbrain and forebrain to the spinal cord cross from one side to the CNS to the other in the medulla. As a result, the right side of the brain controls much of the movement of the left side of the body and vice versa. The midbrain contains centers for the reception and integration of several types of sensory information. It also sends coded sensory information along neurons to specific regions of the forebrain. Prominent centers of the midbrain are the inferior and superior calculus, which are part of the auditory and visual systems, respectively. All sensory axons involved in hearing either terminate or pass through the inferior colliculus on their way to the cerebrum. In non-mammalian vertebrates, the superior calculus take the form of prominent optic lobes and may be the only visual centers. In mammals, vision is integrated in the cerebrum, leaving the superior colliculus to coordinate visual reflexes, such as automatically turning your head when your peripheral vision picks up something moving toward you from the side. Arousal and sleep. As anyone who has sat through a lecture on a warm spring afternoon's attentiveness and mental alertness vary from moment to moment. Arousal is a state awareness of the external world. The counterpart of arousal is sleep, when an individual continues to receive external stimuli but is not conscious of them. Arousal and sleep are controlled by several centers in the brainstem and cerebrum. As shown in this figure, the reticular formation. A diffuse network of neurons called the reticular formation, containing over 90% separate clusters of cell bodies, is present in the core of the brainstem. A part of the reticular formation, the reticular activating system RAS, regulates sleep and arousal, acting as a sensory filter. The RAS selects which information reaches the cerebral cortex, and the more information the cortex receives, the more alert and aware a person is. But arousal is not just a generalized phenomenon. Certain stimuli can be ignored while the brain is actively processing other inputs. Also, sleep and wakefulness are regulated by specific parts of the brainstem. The bones and medulla contain centers that cause sleep when stimulated, and the midbrain has a center that causes arousal. Serotonin may be the neurotransmitter of the sleep-producing centers. Drinking milk before bedtime may induce sleep because milk contains large amounts of tryptophan, the amino acid from which the serotonin is synthesized. All birds and mammals show characteristic sleep-wake cycles, and melatonin, a hormone produced by the pineal gland, also appears to play an important role in these cycles. Peak melatonin secretion occurs at night. Melatonin has been promoted as a dietary supplement to treat sleep disturbances, such as those associated with jet lag, insomnia, seasonal affective disorder, and depression. Understanding the function of sleep remains a compelling research topic. On hypothesis is that sleep is involved in the consolidation of learning and memory, and experiments show that regions of the brain activated during a learning task can become active again during sleep. Okay, thanks for